Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olivia Grace. It is a Monday afternoon, the night before patch 6.0, and I am joined as ever by Wowhead's site manager and my co-host Perculia. How are you doing, Perk?
Well, patch is tomorrow, so I'm excited.
Busy.
But, yeah, very busy.
Absolutely.
With all the guide writing.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So we've been working on a bunch of guides, but we'll get to that a little bit later. What we're planning to do here, we've got a bunch of cool people in Twitch chat. Thank you so much for coming along and hanging out with us. We are going to be answering, we've got a few questions from Twitter, so thank you very much for tweeting those to us. We'll be doing our best to keep an eye on Twitter through the show as well. So if you want to tweet us questions, if you're in chat room and you feel like you're not being heard and you want to tweet us some questions, then do go ahead and do that. But we're going to give you a really quick rundown of exactly what's changing tomorrow in patch 6.0, and then we're going to go straight into answering some questions. So if you do have questions coming in chat, then just send them out to us. One quick note, there's a bunch of more people coming in now who are asking about changing the stream quality. I just don't know how to do that. I'm over here now and I'm sort of looking around on our Wowhead stream and I have no idea how to actually get it to let me allow you to change the stream quality. We're relatively new to streaming this show, so it could be something to do with that. We're not entirely sure. But for now, we apologise, and obviously this will be up on Wowhead tomorrow as well if you're having real trouble watching it. So you will be able to watch a nice, friendly YouTube video if you're having huge problems with the stream. But for now, let's start off by running just briefly through what exactly is coming in patch 6.0.2. Yeah. So, Perk, what have we got?
Right. Okay, so a few weeks ago I put out this big guide on Wowhead going over lots of stuff being removed, so I'm sure lots of you guys have already seen it. It's been linked everywhere, but just as a rundown, TLDR, we've got new character models for all classes, races, except for Blood Elves, Morgan, Pandaren, and Goblin. Blood Elves were scheduled to come later in Warlords. So you can also change your appearance in the barbershop now, so you don't have to pay money if you want to change what your face looks like. So that's really cool. We have a new world event coming for the Blasted Lands and a level 90 version of UBRS. There is level 550 loot and a pet and a title you can get from the Blasted Lands quest, and that can only be done in the pre-patch. We have tons of class changes coming. We have a series of guides going over all the changes, and we also have our guide writer experts writing updates. Some of them already went live when we had our healer show. Lots of things are gone, like profession perks, hit and expertise. There is an item squish. A lot of racials are gone or they're changed. We have a guide to that too. In happier news, we have bags, tons of bag space improvements. We've got the reagent bank, and we have another void storage tab, and we have the toy box, which lets you take all of your vanity items, stick them into a collection tab, make them account wide, and free up bag space. So, one more thing is that the group finder is coming, so you can queue for lots of stuff in game, all sorts of raids, PvP, questing, pretty much everything you want. And raid difficulties are changing names to be confusing, so heroic raids are becoming mythic, normal is becoming heroic, etc. So I think that's about it. I'm probably forgetting a few important things, but those are the ones that came to mind.
Yeah,
anything else that you can think of?
Those are the big things. I would say that skirmishes are coming in as a PvPer. I'm very excited about having skirmishes. The arena season is obviously ending, but we've got skirmishes coming in. Perk already mentioned most of the big stuff, actually, but personally, I'm really excited about the level 90 version of Ubers, because it is a brand new dungeon for 6.0.2. Well, I mean, it's Ubers, but it's a new dungeon that we can do at level 90 at max level. It drops some pretty sweet 550 item level gear, and it's going to be a really, really fun way to gear up some alts. There's been talk of an eye level restriction for it, but we haven't actually seen that implemented yet.
Yeah, I mean, people are asking about difficulty, and to be fair, I mean, it was easier when we had people in current gear, but
yeah.
we went through with some 463s, and it was difficult, but we got through it, and it's possible. So
it's definitely possible.
It makes it easier, but if you know the strats, you'll.
Exactly. And speaking of the strats, we've got a full strat guide up for that already on Wowhead. It's been up for a few days. We're likely to repost that tomorrow with, if I get time this afternoon, I'll do a video run through of it for people tanking, healing, DPSing, but fingers crossed I get a chance to do that. But either way, it's already there in our 6.0.2 launch event guide. Obviously, the Blasted Land quest you already spoke about, the cool pet, the Iron Starlet that you get for completing that, the item squish, the squish is in, the squish is there, you're all being squished, and any talent changes which are coming coming in for your class but are level 90 or lower, those are going to be in as well. So
not things like the Draenor perks.
Exactly. So anything that is beyond 90, that's not going to be in, but everything that's below 90 is in. And honestly, I'm probably more excited about this patch that I'm really excited about playing in this patch because it's going to be cool to see how my class plays, get a new dungeon. But yeah, so that's kind of a quick summary for everything going in.
Before I forget.
Oh yeah.
Justice points and valor points are going away. And a lot of justice points gear is going to cost gold. So that means it's really easy for you to gear up. Like you can buy Shadow Pan Assault gear for gold.
Oh, yeah,
But
totally.
heirlooms from Justice Point vendors are not going to be for gold. You either have to get them from the Dark Moon Fair or the Argent Tournament, and the PvP heirlooms are staying as is. So that is an important change. And the other one is you can undelete characters, and you can then sort of free up some names as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, undelete is a big one.
Undelete is a big one for sure. Absolutely. So let's move into some questions. I saw one person say that my sound was distorted and other people saying it's fine. So hopefully it's fine. But talking about questions then, the first one is from Vesuvia. Vesuvia asks, will the new Halloween stuff be added in this patch or will it be next year? We're super excited to let you know that it's coming. It's coming this patch.
Updates.
Yay! Holiday updates. So yeah, really excited about that. Perk, we've got a bunch of new bits and bobs coming as well, new rewards and that sort of thing. Did you want to just run us through what we've got?
Yeah, I can run that down. So pretty much every holiday in Warlords is getting really awesome updates. And if you go to the world event pages on Wowhead database, world events, I've added all those items to the tab. So there's like the new items, or there are the achievements. So specific to Hollow's End, we've got 2 new pets. I'm very excited. One is a spectral kitten. Actually, it looks really cool in the model view. We have an Arthas disguise. I'm not sure how you obtain that yet, but that's very awesome. I think it is 50 charges, so you can't use it forever, but I imagine we'll see a lot of screenshots of the disguise plus the Defile talent at level 100. And we have some new wands, like spiders and geist, that sort of thing. And we're getting some updated, rings and swords and the horseman's helm. So the item levels have been changing a lot, I believe. But I think it's 540 now.
That would make sense. Yeah, because it's a little bit, would make sense in line with the Ubers thing, because Ubers is 550, but it's a little bit trickier than the Headless Horseman. I'd imagine that it's going to have been up-tuned as well, but I think it's still relatively straightforward to take down one boss compared to completing an entire dungeon. So 540 kind of makes sense there. So yeah, really excited to have Hallow's End. And we do have a huge guide, as you'd expect from Wowhead.
The Justice to Honor conversion is also going away, just on
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so anything you can do with Justice is basically going. Do buy heirlooms with Justice before the patch if you have spare Justice kicking around.
Yeah, or that Mammoth from Dalaran, because it's like 8,000 gold.
That is a good point.
It's 2,000 points now. So.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just grab a couple of questions from chat room right now. Sel Derek as a very quick question. Did Blizzard troll us and implement the new Blood Elf models in secret? No.
No.
Sorry.
We would have data mined it. We
yeah.
found sorts of junk that doesn't actually make it into the game, but we haven't seen anything.
No, we haven't seen anything at all for the Blood Elf model. Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm sure they'll be coming relatively soon. TCCB1833 asks, I have a question. Can characters that were deleted before 6.0 be undeleted with the new undelete feature? Yes. Happier news there. So that's exactly how it works. So I don't know if there's been any sort of talk about restrictions on how far back it goes or anything like that. I haven't personally seen any, so I would assume that it just kind of goes all the way back.
I'm just pulling up the blue tracker to see if we have anything. Let's see. You can free up names that haven't been played since before the release of Wrath of the Lich King.
Oh, wow.
I don't see anything on undelete restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that it goes in line with the sort of previous undelete abilities of GMs. I know that during, I only started playing in Burning Crusade, so I can't comment on prior to that, but I know that during Cataclysm, I managed to get back a character that I deleted late in Burning Crusade. So that was definitely available then, but I can't comment on, I don't know exactly what's going to be available now.
Yeah, I pulled it up from the guide, and you have to be 50 or over. You can be undeleted at any time.
There we
you can
go.
only use this once every 30 days, and if you're under 50, there's a time limit. So between level 10 and 29, you can't recover after 90 days, and between 30 and 49, you can't recover after 120 days.
Okay, there we go. So that kind of clears that up. So moving on to the next question from, I'm sorry if I'm butchering these names, Moises Canales. Without the Lei Shen key and the JP removal from the game, how do we get Elder Charms of Good Fortune? They actually are going to be dropping from rares on the Isle of Thunder. So if you go and kill, what's the turtle called? Goja or something like that?
Yeah,
But there's a
10
turtle.
rares, I believe.
Yeah, there's 10 rares.
Yeah.
There's the guys on the beach who also have the chance to drop the cool little arcane thing. So any of those rares will drop the Elder Charms. The turtle whose name I'm pretty sure it's Goja or something like that. But I can't remember exactly the name.
Yeah, I know.
The turtle that spins round by the place where the guys are. That's very specific. But yeah, if you kill that one of the easiest ones to kill, and they will drop the lesser charms. And you also mentioned that there was someone, a Tanlong vendor somewhere.
Yeah, I was just flying around today to make sure we had the right data for all of the vendors that are selling items for gold instead of justice points, and I noticed that on one of the vendors, I believe you could get Elder Charms for 20 lesser charms. I have to double check, but I remember seeing that and being really surprised.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. It is certainly surprising, but so that's kind of how you can get them. Moving on, Twitch question from Keeper of Outs. We're doing our best to keep up with these guys, but thank you for reposting them if you have been, and do repost them if you keep not getting an answer. Keeper of Outs says, will the changing of gear start with 6.0.2, or will that only be in Warlords and Warlords gear? Hit and expertise are gone in 6.0.2, so they are completely out.
If you see them on gear, let us know and we'll pass them on as a bug report.
Exactly, yeah, it shouldn't be on gear at all. So the versatility and multi-strike, I think they're technically in, but they're not actually going to be on gear.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there might be on like the Siege of Orgrimmar trinket that inspired the stat, but you can't grab a bunch of gear.
Yeah.
You can in the in Warlords.
Yeah, exactly that. So not quite there yet. So moving on again, Delinom666 says, how is it with the old enchants in the patch? Are they going to fix it and make them less powerful than the Mists of Pandaria one? So this refers to something which Perk actually discovered with her guide to the enchants, that a bunch of the Burning Crusade ones and the earlier ones, because of the way the item squish had worked out, turned out to be more powerful than the current Mists of Pandaria ones. But Ian Hezekosis did actually tweet out and say today that they are going to be fixing that. So it is going to be repaired. Given that the patch is tomorrow, I don't know exactly when they're going to have time, whether they're going to be able to actually pull a fix in right away for that, or whether they'll actually have to wait and hotfix it a little bit later. Hopefully they'll be able to do it with the patch tomorrow, so we'll have the gear fixed up by then.
Yeah, there's been a few other things I hope they fix too, like there's some bonus armor trinkets from Burning Crusade that have twice as much bonus armor as some Siege of Orgrimmar items. I haven't gotten a response directly about that being changed, but I think that either they're working on it, or if they see people suddenly trying to buy if there's items they're farming this, then they'll realize something is up.
Exactly that. So then moving on, L Killer 8 or Elk Illa 8 has asked a question which we've also received via email, basically saying, Elk Illa 8 says, do we have to do all of Siege of Orgrimmar to just get our weapon heirloom? And I had one via email from someone called Garia saying, with Flex becoming normal, can we still queue straight to Siege Crafter? If not, can we extend our lockout? So to kind of address the email question, there's much the same thing. You can't, the wings are gone, so you can no longer queue in to Flex. Basically, as Flex has become normal, it's gone, so you are now having to do the raid, as if it was a normal raid back in the day. So you have to rock up to the portal.
Gregarious has tweeted that they're going to be, you can't take an old lockout and roll it over.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's all been reset.
Yeah, so your raised lockouts have been reset. You unfortunately do have to go to the instance portal to go in. So if you want to get your heirloom off of Garrosh, you are going to have to start at Immersius, or once people have killed their way up, they may well be able to preserve lockouts just as you would with a normal raid. Like, you know how when you're doing a raid and you want to keep people with that lockout and swap some characters around, you could almost certainly do that with the Garrosh heirloom. So you could probably find a run, and do remember, of course, that the group finder is in, so it's not as hard.
Really super user friendly.
Yeah,
it makes things really easy.
Exactly that. It's much better. It's considerably better than the group finder which we're used to, which everyone's been using for Celestials. It's sort of much enhanced.
Like buried in a tab.
Yeah. It's got a lot of features. It's got minimum item level stuff. It's, it's really easy to use, and hopefully then you'll be able to get the saved lockouts, and people will be advertising groups going straight in later in the raid towards Garrosh, just as you would have been able to do if you had a normal mode raid. So although at first you're not going to be able to get straight in at Siegecrafter anymore, I think it's going to be better, and the item find is going to make it far, far easier for people to actually get their hands on those heirlooms than it perhaps would have been.
Yeah. I want to say a quick note about heirlooms, because I've been seeing some questions, not here, but elsewhere. Heirlooms at level 100, the Garrosh heirlooms, will all be eye level 620. So they'll be scaling at different rates, and they'll all be at 620 at 100. So it's not like your mythic heirloom is going to be like 10 items levels better at level 100 than an heirloom you would have looted from normal Siege of Orgrimmar. So if you go to the Wowhead heirloom versions on Warlords, or tomorrow they'll be on live Wowhead, you can move that little slider thing underneath to see how they move from 90 to 100 and at what level. If you're level 95, you're like, oh, well, the normal one is this level, and Heroic's like 2 item levels higher, and then you can see how they all sort of merge together at the same point. So yeah, they're all pretty much the same. You'll all sort of get the same benefit at level 100 from your Garrosh heirlooms.
Exactly that. So there we go. Moving on to another question here from Chaos. Will the legendary cape still be available for those who started the quest? Yes. So let's run down this legendary cape thing, because there seems to be a lot of confusion here. We've posted a couple of times on Wowhead, but we know that not everyone reads every single Well Be Right. There's a lot of content on Wowhead, and we are aware of that. So just running it down really quickly. If you want to get a legendary cloak and you haven't yet started the quest chain, get it today. Don't hang around, don't delay, don't think, oh, it's only going down at midnight. Get it, just go. In fact, just log on to the game right now and just pick up the quest, because you cannot start the legendary quest chain after the patch has been applied. So you have to pick that quest up right now, today, to actually start that quest chain. However, after the patch has been applied, you can still continue the quest chain. The Gaze of the Black Prince buff, which was meant to be going all the way up until tonight, has been accidentally deactivated 24 hours early. So unfortunately,
that's not returning. Basically.
That's not coming back either, no. So people who were depending on that for today are unfortunately a little bit out of luck there. But in 6.0.2, which is the patch tomorrow, you will have the Test of Valor achievement removed. So that's good news. Hooray for no longer having to do that 3000 Valor bit. But you are going to be stuck with all of the stuff to collect, all of the sigils, all of the runestones and everything. You're still going to do all that. So you might have a little bit of trouble with the number of raid lockouts between now and Warlords of Draenor's actual launch, but theoretically you can still get it. You just need to make sure you pick that quest up today.
Yeah, another interesting change is that Ordos, you don't need a legendary cloak to kill him tomorrow, so you can get some awesome 559 gear, and that's no longer restrictions. So,
and I'm doing this happy little dance because I could get my hat at last. Yes. I'm doing a very happy little dance there. So moving on to a question from Brad Sloan via Twitter. He says, this is very abbreviated, so apologies, Brad, if you said meant something else to what I was saying, that Brawlers Guild, I'm assuming means Brawlers Guild, Brawlers Guild achievements become Feast of Strength and Progress Reset. Is the mount still available? Should I waste tonight on a Huru? The Brawlers Guild vendors are still sticking around, I believe, or are they gone?
I believe they're sticking around, but some loot is changing. For example, the ring that has the strength and the teleport on it is being changed for an eye level 630 ring that has stats that change based on what spec you are. So if you feel really attached to the old version of the ring, or you don't care about the stats and you just want to teleport, I would get the ring tonight, because that the level 100 version is obviously more expensive.
Yeah.
Also, because all of your progress is getting reset, you're going to be starting over from scratch.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be 100, new talents. Might be easier to do it at 90 if you have totally awesome gear than trying it at 100 in, quest and dungeon.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So, if you think that you can get the last guy done tonight, I would say go ahead and get the mount. But you can still get the mount if you beat the Warlords version of the Brawlers Guild, when that goes live on November 13th.
Exactly. So it is going away in between, like you're not going to, it's being retuned for level 100, so you're not going to be able to do it at all tonight. So moving on to another question from Spanky Hunter. If you queue as a tank or healer, are you forced into that spec? So I did a little bit of experimentation just to verify this, and you can't queue as a spec you're not spec'd into. So say I'm on my paladin and I'm in my tank spec, in my prot spec, I can queue up as a tank. I can't queue as a DPS, I can't queue as a healer. I actually get a little error on my mouse over saying you are not in the right spec for this queue or something along those lines. But what I've discovered is that what you can do is say I put my tank spec on, queue up as a tank, and then once I'm queued, I then change my spec to Retribution, and the dungeon queue still popped with me in ret, despite the fact that I was meant to be a tank. So it seems like and the same applied for Battlegrounds, I should add that too. So I was able to make a paladin with a healing spec, queue up as holy, and then change to ret and still zone in, and everything worked. So whether that is the final implementation or not, we're not entirely sure, obviously, but it seems like you are still able to game that system a little bit as long as you have the appropriate spec on your character. So it doesn't seem...
We also should point out that if you want tank or healing loot, you don't have to queue up as a tank or healer. Queue up as DPS and select from your character portrait that as your loot specialization, you want loot for a different one. So, you could be, killing things as a Windwalker and say you want Mistwalker loot, and then you will, from your bonus rolls, you will get int gear.
Exactly that, yeah. So there's certainly, you have options there. You don't have to do it. It's just the people who are trying to queue in and get the faster queues with the tank and heal queues who may be sort of abusing this system. But it doesn't seem to be the case that there's any sort of thing stopping you accepting the queue and getting into the instance just yet. But we'll see. We're looking forward to that one. Something from a user on Twitch called Failcade. Saying, will Goraluk Anvilcrack's plans be removed? Arcanite Champion, Masterwork, Stormhammer, that sort of thing.
So this is something that when I first did a UBRS preview, a lot of Wowhead users were sensitive about, and I tried bringing them up to several item devs, and I'm saying, hey, I know you've tried to do a good job making sure that transmog gear from old UBRS makes it into new UBRS. And they asked me to send over a list of plans, and I did, and I linked them to Wowhead users that left really good comments on this. So I'm not sure. If it's not around, I think that they would like to put it back in. I recently brought this up to them because the Polychromatic Vision Wrap doesn't have a level 100 version, and I was like, hey, I'm really sad this is going away, and they're like, oh, it should be in there. I'm like, well, it's not in there, so, just a reminder, you guys should, try to add these cool things in again. So I think it's not intended if they go away, but I will definitely bring up a note again as I keep making item bug reports that, these recipes are really cool and they should be in the game.
Definitely. So another question from Keeper of Alts here. They have said that when you change specs, say Elemental to Enhance on a Shaman, your gear will change with you. Is that only in Warlords, or is that being implemented into Pandaria as well, or all the way back to the start of the game? To the best of my knowledge, it's only going forwards.
Yeah, so only in Warlords.
Yeah.
Siege of Orgrimmar, Blizzard made a lot of, for technical reasons, they made a lot of duplicate item IDs or on Wowhead item pages for that gear, but that's not affected by the Warlords system. So just Warlords, things that exist in Draenor are being affected by the system. Siege of Orgrimmar and stuff earlier is not being affected. Exactly.
So if you're hoping to try out Enhance and you've got full intellect gear in your bags, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to wait a little bit, which is a shame. Moving on, LarkFan666 asks, is Burden of Eternity still going to be bind on pickup after 6.0.2? Yes.
Yep.
I'm
and
afraid
if you're not sure, you can go to the Burden of Eternity page on Wowhead, and then next to the search box where it has that Warlords or live toggle, you can click on Warlords, and it shows you what that item looks like in Warlords of Draenor. So if you've questions about, I don't know, Spirits of Harmony, or what something looks like with the item squish, you can swap between those two versions as a quick comparison.
Exactly that, yeah. So via Twitter, Julian Marcon asks, how many zones are actually darker now during the night? I would say that I've noticed a little bit. I haven't noticed a ton of much darker zones. Like Shadow Moon is very dark at night, I found. The Warlord zones seem to be having quite big shifts there, in my experience.
I feel like with all the beta downtime that it's only playable in the night, so...
Yeah, that's a good point. Certainly recently it's always seemed very dark, but I don't, it's hard for us to tell. I feel like there is some difference in the old world, but I wouldn't like to sort of put any money on it, you know. So moving on. Crazy Albo 76 asks, will items that weren't available in Flex and only normal stroke heroic be available in the new normal tomorrow since Flex becomes normal? They're literally just being renamed, as far as I know. So if you had an item, for example, the heroic versions of items are still going to be needing mythic level completion to get to them. The normal current items are going to need heroic completion to get to them. The Flex items are going to go to normal. The LFR is staying the same.
The one quirk that I have seen is that I believe Mythic Trash exists now because the item that you would... So right now, if you had like a normal trash drop, you would take that with that special Echoes of War, and you could turn that into the vendor to get the Mythic version, and that special additional token is becoming a gray trash item in 6.0.2. So my guess is that there's Mythic Trash, and you just get the Mythic version of the item.
Yeah,
that's something I can think of, really.
Yeah.
Like the pets are still the same, so you know that one shop pet that's available on LFR and Flex is now, you know, LFR and normal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty confusing, and I think there's going to be a lot of confusion and lack of understanding about what's exactly happening with the raid name changes.
Yeah, I should make a quick plug for our item finder tool right now, actually. So if we know that like some people love Wowhead filters, but other people find them sort of like very confusing or like overly technical and mathy. So we made this special sort of easing you in to filters with the item finder tool. And what that is, it's sort of, if you visit the page, it helps you find the most popular things that people filter for, like mounts, or, you know, items needed for this profession, or crafted items for this profession, or, you know, all enchants for wrists for arcane mages. And it's really simple. We just have, you know, blocks of text with big buttons. You can click and be like, I want gear, then I want level 90 gear, then I want gear for a hunter, find what I need. And we added a extra row being like, I want to see all the loot from normal. I want to see all the loot from heroic and mythic, because we thought that the names would be really confusing. So we don't want to have a million filters. It would be really good just to help you, you know, quick links to those gear filters, because we know there's going to be a lot of confusion with the names staying all the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being different at the same time.
That's it. Yeah, so it is definitely going to be really confusing. So then moving on, Ashendal asks, with the 100% heirloom drops, are we still going to have a chance to get a weapon we don't use? I.e., if I'm using a staff, will I still have the chance to get a main hand spell power weapon? So, sorry, Perk, you're about to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's by the loot specialization that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all personal loot. So, for example, if you're queuing as a Holy Paladin, but you have a tank spec selected, you will get that tank item. So make sure that your loot specialization is the one that you want, but you're not going to get a totally unusable weapon.
No, absolutely not. And it's always going to be the case that it's your first one. It's only 100% on the first one. So don't get overexcited or get really angry if you don't get one and you've already had, like, a guy in my guild has had like 9 heirlooms off Garrosh, which is just so ridiculously unfair that I can't even. But he is not likely to get 9 more, which is fortunate, even if he manages to go through it several times. So then another question which we had in was from, oh my goodness, this is quite a name, X-King Slayer X. Will there be loot in the new Ubers tomorrow? Yes! There will be loot. We mentioned it earlier in the show. It's going to be 550, item level 550 blue quality loot, and Perk has put together an awesome guide on how a lot of the old items that people remember from the classic Ubers, and I've been campaigning on Twitter for it to be called Nubers, so I'm just going to start calling it that and try and perpetuate it. So that's all going to be coming in Nubers, and it's going to be like retuned up to the higher item levels, and it's not all exactly the same, is it? There's some differences there.
Yeah, so the first boss drops rings and a 2-handed weapon. The second boss drops gloves and a different weapon. And the third boss drops chest pieces and an agi sword and a strength sword that are reminiscent of the Dalrend ones. And as someone, I think, Hina Lover mentioned in chat earlier, there is some multi-strike on gear, so if you're a class that gets a boost from multi-strike now, you might want to run that for fun. Also, we do not know what the item level is yet. When we ran it on beta, there wasn't any item level requirement,
Yeah.
and after we were talking about that, a blue post was made saying that one was coming, but
Yeah.
we don't know what that is yet. But
Yeah.
it was pretty. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it was doable in really bad.
Really bad gear. Like, so
So-
we, like, you know, you all know that character copies of the PTR have been broken for some time, but Perk and I, obviously, as people who've tested a lot on the PTR, both had some old characters kicking around. So, like, I had an old paladin tank that had decent-ish gear, but 463 weapon and shield, which when you're tanking against people in really high-level gear, makes it really hard work. But we were able to get through there with us, and even just some people who were in, like, 463 gear, even some people in pre-maze in full 463 gear. I've seen tweets that have been suggesting that it's going to be around a 510 eye level, but that shouldn't be set as confirmation. That is only
Yeah, they
just a
said they wanted
suggestion.
it to be tuned for people that had some
Raid
Siege of
Finder.
Orgrimmar experience.
Yeah, so it looks like you'd be able to get, if you were able to get a few bits and bobs of gear from the Raid Finder, you'd then be able to go into the level 90 Ubers and pick up some sweet 550s for not a ridiculous amount of effort. As we mentioned earlier, we're going to be putting strategies up there as well, so you'll be able to see exactly what you're doing, and that will hopefully make life easier for everyone. And I've just lost my place in our notes, so let's look for, oh, okay, here we go. Defias PvP asks, is there any new achievements or titles with the revamped Ubers? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, there is a special title and pet if you do the special Blasted Lands
Yes.
quest, and some of the Uber's loot does not have a level 100 variation. So if you want to get something cool, for sentimental purposes, you might want to get that special level 90 loot because you can't queue up for that at 100. Like, 2 months from now, you can't say, oh, cool, I got this boosted 90, I'll just run UBRS first to get my awesome 550 item before I go up. But so you want to get the Iron Vanguard title from the Blasted Lands quest. It's super easy, and you want to get the Iron Starlet battle pet as well.
Yeah, then that's an account-wide battle pet too. So if you do those quests on one character, be it Alliance or Horde, you'll get the Iron Starlet, and you'll be able to do it for, you'll be able to use that on any character.
And as Novel points out, the Leroy achievement has been
Oh, yes,
so
that's
obviously
true.
the old version went away, and the new version I don't believe you can do at level 90, but at level 100, there you can still get the title, and apparently it also rewards Leroy as a garrison follower.
Yeah, which is pretty awesome. Obviously, do remember that the Ubers, which we're seeing now at level 90, is incomplete. It's it's not incomplete, it's shorter. And the rest of the dungeon is going to be in there. So, moving on, CCC38941 asks, when does Season 16 start? It is likely to start shortly after the launch of Warlords of Draenor. The PvP seasons normally begin with the release of the first normal mode raid tier. That's not an absolute guaranteed thing, but historically has often been the case. But fear not, for us PvP lovers, we have got the skirmish system running in between the, sorry, I shouldn't say PvP lovers, I should say arena lovers, between the arrival of patch 6.0.2 and the start of the arena season proper. We do have skirmishers running that entire time, so although it's not rated play, and it's obviously not going to give you rating or MMR increases, it can award honor points, which is really, really nice, so you can build up a big cache of honor doing skirmishers. You can also use it to buy honor gear.
Honor gear is eye level 550 now,
which I was going to say, so
good.
Perk discovered that the current Conquest gear, eye level 550 gear, is now purchasable for honor. So if you are looking for a quick way to grab some awesome gear to get into that Ubers, to just get outs ready, I don't know about you, but I'm going to be doing a ton of skirmishes. So that's pretty cool stuff. So, but as far as Season 16, we don't know exactly when it's going to come out yet. I would anticipate around 2 weeks after the launch of the actual expansion for real. So sometime towards the end of November is when I would imagine that's going to appear. Moving on, 77 Blaze of Death 77 says 100% air. Let me just try to read that one again. I started reading and I got it horribly wrong. 100% heirloom weapon drop from Garrosh for your current spec if you haven't gotten one. Does that mean if I take 3 different tunes through, I can get 3 of the heirloom weapons? Yes.
I think that's how it works.
Yeah, I believe so. It's a smash and grab. It's a buff called smash and grab, I believe. So that's going to be starting presumably tomorrow, which is going to allow a 100% drop rate for heirlooms on the first one per character. I don't think it's the first one per account because that would be wildly unfair.
They want people to be running Siege of Orgrimmar.
Exactly that, yeah. So they want people going through there. It's exciting new content. And they want people testing the new raids as well. And it's worth mentioning too, as an aside, we didn't get asked this, but the new difficulties, the flexible difficulties, so ignoring LFR for a second, Flex, which has become normal, and normal, which has become heroic, will all be doable with flexible groups. So the smallest group size that it will scale for is 10, but you can bring 8, and it will go up to 30. So you've got a massive amount of flexibility in your group sizes there. So that's definitely something to bear in mind.
Yeah. Also, as a plug for the scaling, on Wowhead pages, we've been able to show how the spells sort of change their impact based on difficulty. So we have the, going back to spell sliders, which I mentioned on heirlooms, we've essentially done the same thing for spells that scale in a raid. So you can be like, oh, with 10 players, the spell hits for X amount, but with, 30 players, it hits for the totally different amount. And we also have a little drop down underneath the tooltip so you can see how it changes, from normal to heroic to mythic. So we always sort of show this data in the spell detail section, which was the scary grid on Wowhead, but we made it a lot easier to find, and the slider is new and we think is pretty user friendly if you really want to get into the nitty gritty and see if an ability gets a lot worse with a certain number of people.
Exactly that, yeah. So just grabbing a couple of questions related to this from the chat room. DT_reach says, so LFR is now flex? And I think it's not, no. It's so, I believe they talked briefly about LFR becoming flexible, but I don't know whatever happens with that.
I think it's in the data, but either it's not coming or they haven't talked about it.
Yeah, exactly. So presume not for now, but it was talked about. And Spirits121 says you can do heroic with 8 ? Yeah, you can. So heroic, bear in mind though that's normal. So heroic in 6.0.2 is the current normal mode, which means that it's the same difficulty as normal, it's the same loot. Heroic is becoming mythic, which is the only non-flexible size, which is 20 or bust. So if you are a group of any number other than 20, you cannot do mythic raiding, and that is what the heroic difficulty Siege of Orgrimmar today will become mythic difficulty 20 man only Siege of Orgrimmar tomorrow. Normal will become heroic, flex will become normal, LFR will stay the same. I suspect that we're going to be saying this a lot.
Yes. Also, all of the lockouts are separate. Currently, normal and heroic are shared, so you can't kill the same boss on normal and the same boss on heroic. But with how everything's sort of been recalibrated behind the scenes, all 4 difficulties are separate now. So you can clear it all on Mythic and then clear it with other friends on Heroic afterwards.
Yeah, exactly that. So there's a lot changing, and I can understand why there's confusion. Dr. DRMEKTV, I'm not even going to try to say that. Spelled it out. That's good enough. Dr. Mech TV or Dremek TV. Are Flex Wings going to disappear? Meaning that I have to run full normal now instead of queuing up for Wing 1 to 4. We hit this earlier in the show, so I'm going to be brief. Yes, that's exactly how it's going to work. Lockouts are not being carried over from today till tomorrow. If you have a normal mode lockout, that will not be extended into a heroic mode lockout. Wings are going away. The only way to get into normal, which is Flex today, is to go to the entrance of the instance. So moving on, because we covered that earlier in the show, this will be up on YouTube, by the way, if you want to go back and watch it again or listen again, but just bear that in mind. So Tanned_priest, presumably in reference to the talk about honor points in season 16, asks, what about conquest points? Now, it's perfectly normal in this sort of inter-patch stage, at the pre-patch stage of an expansion, that you can't actually grab conquest points at all, or that if you are able to get them, you can't spend them. So basically, conquest points, just forget about those for a little while. So it's just kind of consider them as if they're not there. The gear which you would buy for conquest points is available for honor points, which implies very strongly indeed that conquest is gone and is not coming back until the season 16 begins, and that will be when the conquest gear itself returns also. So consider that to be the case.
Also, you should mod Terran.
I just did. Yeah, I've actually already modded him, so it takes a little while to come up. So just be patient, Terran. Be patient.
I have another raid-related question that Sema Joja just asked, it is, are normal mounts going to drop at a 1% drop rate tomorrow? So normal mounts are actually gone. The Warwolf, which is the mount you get for completing normal mode, ahead of the curve, Garrosh, that achievement is going to not be obtainable because the patch hit, like it's beyond the time, so you cannot get that mount. But if you are talking about the mythic mount, which is the scorpion mount, that is staying at 100% difficulty until Warlords actually hits. Now, this is a change from how other similar top-level mounts have been handled. Usually when the pre-patch hits, they go down to 1%, a month before the expansion hits. But, maybe they want to have more, actual mythic testing. I'm not sure why, but, it's sort of a nice bonus. You get an extra month to try to get people the mythic Garrosh mounts.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so nothing is going to 1% tomorrow. It's just the Warwolf is 100% gone, and the mythic mount just stays as is.
Exactly, and it's worth mentioning that the when it was current achievements are going, so you won't be able to get those once 6.0.2 begins. You have to get that today. So if you are 1% on killing Garrosh to get the ahead of the curve achievement, hit him tonight, punch him hard tonight. So then. Where are we? 77 Blazer Death 77 with another question. What is the max and minimum size for parties for the new normal and heroic raid difficulties? Minimum is 8. Scaling is only going down to 10. So if you are going in with 8 people, you're going to have a 2-person difficulty gap between the number of people you have and the number of people the raid is scaled for. Minimum scaled number is 10, but you can go in with 8. Maximum size is 30. And there's none of that sort of, it's not going to be scaled for 28 if you bring 30. Exactly that. So moving on, that was what we touched on earlier. So check out the YouTube video for a more complete response. CCC38941 says, what is the update for the auction house? So this is something we haven't hit on yet, so we should definitely touch this one. Yeah. So in summary, basically what's going on is all of the auction houses are going cross-faction. So if you remember, like there's the little auction houses down in Gadgetzan that are the neutral auction houses, and that's going to be the case for everything. So if you post something, if someone on the Horde side on your server, or indeed your connected servers, connected realms, posts an item, you can buy that on Alliance side. The server, basically it's a server group-wide single auction house.
And this doesn't mean you can go up to like the person on the opposite faction and like open up a trade and trade the items.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just this auction house.
Yeah, and it's certainly going to be interesting for those of us who are into our transmog flipping for the transmog flipping to earn money, because it's historically often been the case that certain items are wildly different in price on the Horde and the Alliance sides on same servers and server clusters. So that'll certainly be interesting to see. So, moving on. Dr. Pigeonism, great name, I like that one, says, will the portals in Two Moons be removed once WoD lands, like how Dalaran only portals to Org and Stormwind? The answer to that is that it doesn't seem that way. They are still very much there on the PTR, which certainly implies that they will very much be there on live servers.
Yeah, also, I mean, we're not talking too much about things in Warlords of Draenor, but in your faction cities in Ashran, not the PvP zone, Ashran, sort of tangentially outside, they do have a lot of portals going to old world cities. So it seems that they've changed their philosophy at some point, and having multiple portals in cities is something that is acceptable.
Exactly that. So it seems pretty likely. So then from sorry, I'm doing terrible on the names today. Anna Renola, will the quest for Greenfire go away if we've not started it, or will Warlock still be able to start and complete that quest? It's sticking around, but there's an achievement being added for doing it prior to is it 6.0.2 or is it Warlords proper that achievement relates to?
I believe it's 6.0.2.
Yeah, that would make sense because that's when all the changes are coming in. So what is it? Of the Black Harvest? Is that the title of the rewards?
Yeah, it's an achievement and then there's a related title to it.
Yeah.
Same.
So no, the quest is still going to be there. You can still farm the books. You can still do every aspect of the quest. You just can't get the awesome of the Black Harvest title come 6.0.2. So moving on then to We've got a bunch of questions in here. Sorry, I'm just catching up with where we are with our Twitter questions.
Okay.
So Magdalena asks, what have been some of the biggest challenges faced by the Wowhead team over the course of the beta coverage, and why?
I guess I can handle that.
Yeah.
Since I'm dealing with some of the data stuff. Basically, not to put everyone to sleep, Blizzard refactored how items are created. So while nothing really changes on your end as a user, for Wowhead, it essentially meant that every tool or item page would sort of use a lot of its usefulness. Instead of having every version of an item have its own page on Wowhead, they sort of bundled 6 versions onto one page. So, if you're trying to filter for something, it's like, oh, where did the other 5 versions of the item go? Or if you're like, oh, transmog sets, why is it only showing the normal version? So we've been we refactor a different part of the site every week, and we're nearly done with everything, but there's tons of things to do, like getting filters working, the item comparison working, transmog sets, making sure every bonus version of the item shows up in the same model as tab. There's just been a lot of nitpicky things that we want to make sure looks awesome for you guys in the pre-patch, so you guys, don't think, hey, why did this cool tool stop being as useful? Why can't I search for things by their item level? Why can't I search for things by their stat?
Exactly.
So that's sort of been...
That's been a big thing.
Yeah, like Blizzard, they've sort of changed how item bonuses have worked several times. So it's sort of been this process where I remember we were really excited in June where we got the items up and they were like, oh, we have the Warforged showing, and then they just removed Warforged from this we could get the next. I was like, well, glad we spent time on that.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on to more Twitch chat questions, and we've got about 10-15 minutes or so left on the sort of scheduled time for this, so get those questions in now if you want them answered. You can also tweet us. I'm keeping an eye on Twitter as well. My mentions, so try and tweet them at me. So Slog Monster asks, did we talk about whether BOAs are going to be in a menu somewhere? We did not, and as far as we know in 6.0.2, unless they've snuck something up on us, which seems very unlikely, they're not. They've talked about the heirlooms tab being pushed back, and that is the kind of the BOA tab as well. What we've got at the moment is pets as we have on live, mounts as we have on live, and the super awesome, very exciting, very extensive guide on Wowhead toy box. So that is an awesome addition. We've also got the additional void storage and the reagents bank, but nothing for BOAs at this point. Moving on from DT_reach, with the number crunch, I also hear that enemies that are 10 levels below you do less damage than you, and you do more damage to them. Does that basically mean the things that I cannot solo in current patch, I can in pre-patch? I wouldn't say that it's been spelt out quite that clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's meant to be that you can definitely still solo things.
Yeah.
So it's not like stuff is going away. But there's other factors like if you have new talents, new spells, if a new stat's really awesome for soloing and you have that on your gear. But yeah, I mean, this is just basically so that you can still actually solo things in the pre-patch. So I know a lot of people were worried that the stats glitch would mean they couldn't, but yeah, you still can. Yeah,
exactly that. So I wouldn't say that it's actually going to be necessarily easier or harder. They've been shooting for about the same. Just go and try it out and let us know what you think. And so moving on, X-Kingslayer 3RX says, will the revamped Black Fathom Deep and Razorfen dungeons be available tomorrow? I haven't actually checked this on the PTR, but I believe so.
Are. Yeah, they're all available tomorrow. So we've got Black Fathom, Razorfen Depths, and Razorfen Crawl. Yep,
so all of those are in. Will the Uber's event dungeon have sort of an ID, or can it be run the whole day again and again and again, trying to get more 550 gear?
I mean, we ran it a lot. We weren't locked into it once a day.
No, not at all. We actually ran this. We were putting obviously together the guide for Wowhead. We actually ran this. Well, we ran it together 3 times, I think. And then I ran it again a couple more times, trying to establish some tank mechanic, but I kept zoning in after the second boss, so I wasn't able to. So if anyone's online later today, I will be running it several more times in order to make a video and find out that thing about tanking. So you can literally keep spamming that dungeon, just like a normal dungeon, just like you'd imagine, over and over and over and over again, to get the awesome 550 gear. Sema Joja asks, are we going to have to wait until 6.2 before we see the new Blood Elf skin in a hotfix or a small patch afterwards? I would strongly suspect that they're coming in a major number patch. I'd hope for 6.1.
I wonder if they'll be teased at BlizzCon.
I bet you that's right. That is a really good shout. So I bet you that is it. We'll see them in 2.5 weeks at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
The Defias PvP asks, is the title from the Blasted Lands questline account-wide or not? Perk, I believe it is.
I'm not sure, actually.
I was able to select it after I'd completed it. Okay, so I was able to select it on a different character after I'd completed it on beta. And then they pulled it out of beta and the title went away. So I don't know. I would imagine so, but I definitely don't know that for sure. So unfortunately, we can't exactly help you with that one. I'm sure Perk is actually currently looking up on Wowhead to see if we've got any information for it.
I completed it on the PTR, so I'll log on. Yeah, see, that's the issue. Apparently, hopefully someone from QA has seen my complaint and has fixed this, but apparently if you change to the old version of Blasted Lands and then you take a flight path back to Blasted Lands as Alliance, you crash and your character is sort of gone for good.
Oh, wow.
So that was the character that originally had the title.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a fairly major issue. Moving on, trying to go through the questions quickly right now. Dr. Mech TV asks, is 550 PvP gear staying 550 or will there be extra PvP item level already? No, staying 550. That is not coming in until Warlords of Draenor. Imagine for a second what the world would be like if that came in right now. Most of the gear changes that you're going to see, like the additions of cool stuff like that, are not coming in until Warlords of Draenor, although some stats are disappearing in 6.0.
Yeah, I remember I don't think we typed this question, but one that I remember I saw this one in chat before. People were asking about Spirit, and yes, so Spirit is going away on what Blizzard classifies as armor, which means things like helm, shoulders, chest, and it's only going to be on pieces for healers, for necks, rings, trinkets, and capes.
Yeah, exactly that, cloaks. So yeah, the spirit gear is going, but don't worry, don't freak out if you just heard that and are tearing your hair out. Baseline spirit is being massively, and I really do mean massively, increased. For more information on that, check out Wowhead Weekly episode 14, which was our healing special with two amazing experts, Hamlet and Dayani, who covered everything you'd need to know about healing. One question via Twitter, trying to keep an eye on that as you mentioned. Pauline asks, will we only be able to craft directly with reagents from the new reagent tab or also with reagents in the normal bank tabs? So if you have reagents in your bank, will you be able to craft out of there or is it only stuff in the reagent tab? I haven't tested this, but I'm going to assume it works with both.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that as well. It should be pretty easy for me to hop on and test right after.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it works both ways. Both bank tabs, there's essentially two different bank tabs in your UI. It's not like you have to go to two different NPCs to open up the two different tabs.
Yeah, exactly. One question that I saw, we typed into the doc, we're trying to frantically, both of us are grabbing questions from all over the place, but Dr. Mech TV has just reminded me in chat room with his question about the different one about upgrading. Someone was asking about using Valor points to upgrade gear in 6.0.2 and in the lieu of Valor points what we'd use instead and how much it would be. We all know Valor points are going away in 6.02, so they literally are ceasing to exist. It's part of the currency removal which Blizzard is trying to do, so they are gone. What you're going to use instead is lesser charms, and correct me if I'm wrong, Perk, but I believe it is 5 lesser charms per upgrade.
It is 50.
Oh, 50, stop,
5.
That would be crazy, so 50 lesser charms. That would make more sense. I had a 5 number in my head, there we go. So 50 lesser charms per upgrade will get you your gear. So that seems pretty easy to do, like farm them out with some gulp frogs and you'll be there pretty quickly.
Yeah, also it does not work on PvP gear as usual.
No, exactly that. So
it's
PvP...
only for Siege of Orgrimmar stuff, and do keep in mind that Siege of Orgrimmar you can upgrade it 4 times, but stuff before that in Mr. Pandora you can only upgrade 2 times.
Exactly that, yeah. So another thing that brings up actually is it's not going to be worth stockpiling lesser charms for anything in Warlords. So if you've got a bunch of lesser charms, they're not going to be used. As far as I know, you're going to be farming the Warforged Seal equivalents directly, so you're not going to need to have a whole stock of lesser charms to turn in for stuff. So do get rid of them, do upgrade that gear, do sort of not hold on to those currency.
The only thing I can think is if you wanted if you want the pets from Siege of Draenor, because the pets you can get with bonus rolls, but that's the only thing I can think of with them.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, with people giggling at my 5 charms, that was quite funny. Okay, that one's the Warlords question. We're trying to avoid Warlords-specific questions here. Trying to deal with 602.
People going to really like the stream, so we'll definitely do one specifically on Warlords closer to then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things like garrisons or
garrison stuff, that sort of thing, that's not necessarily going to come up in this particular one. Garmel asks, why is no one talking about paladins? I can't seem to find anything focusing on Ret. I have some really good news for you, Garmel. Amongst our Wowhead guides, we have an awesome Ret writer who's put together a really awesome guide dealing with everything Ret Paladin in 6.0.2. We have got a ton of guides. Perk and I have been working, well, Perk specifically has been doing a ton of work, and my work is just coming in now, putting together these guides. We've got experts of every class coming in and writing different guides. We have been putting them into our formatting. We've been posting them. We've been making changes. We've had last minute differences coming in from the devs, which we've been adjusting and dealing with the guide writers and going backwards and forwards. But we have got a really awesome complete set of 6.0 guides for every class. They have a level 90 survival guide section in them, which deals specifically with how your stats, abilities, rotation, all of that stuff is going to change in 6.0.2 for level 90, aimed at people who are doing Siege of Orgrimmar, and those guys also carry on to going right the way through to Warlords of Draenor at level 100. Last few...
I have a really cool transmog question. I mean,
go for it.
Transmog.
Yes.
It's by Sockfire, and it's any changes to transmog rules. And yes, there are some changes, actually. Two-handed axes, maces, and swords currently are separate from polearms and staves. And on the beta, when we tested it, they are now part of the same group. So you can transmog a polearm to a two-handed axe. There's still the same restrictions where that has to be a weapon type for your class in order to transmog it, but there's no weird distinction between those two-handed weapons anymore. And a lot of sets are coming back.
Yeah.
So like Season 1 bracers, belts, and boots are available in Area 52. All of the Pandaria PvP vendors have returned, and they sell Season 12 to 15 gear for Honor. That's especially awesome for Season 13 armor and weapons because while Blizzard tries to make sure all the old gear models for PvP you can get some way of getting them, that season for some reason sort of fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
And with Dragon Soul LFR being something that you can solo now, you don't have to find a raid at like level 85.
Yes!
You can get those unique recolored tier 13 transmog sets.
Yay, I'm super excited about that because I re-rolled on US with a new account, and my priest on EU had that raid finder set, which was so super awesome, and I'm really, really excited to get that done for my US priest. Device PvP again asks, will the legendary questline be available through LFR or not? If nothing's changing apart from the fact that you can't start it and that the test of valor is gone. If you were able to do anything with the legendary questline previously, you were able to do it still. So don't worry about that. It's all sticking around. Psychuck87 asks, will the level 100 Brawlers Guild ring be purchasable if I earned rank 4 prior to 6.0.2? And that is a no. All of your progress and ranking is being reset, and the achievements are becoming feats of strength. So, anything to add there, Perk?
Yeah, I mean, just basically all your ranks are going away. So there's like current seasons. I guess season is a popular term with challenge.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have to go to rank 4, but do keep in mind that they're scrambling up all of the ranks. So Bruce, for example, who is rank 1 now, is going to be rank 5, I think, in Warlords. So, do take a look at the challenge cards, see how they've all changed. There might be some easier bosses.
Yeah.
Before rank 4, there might be harder bosses. And, it's like totally a blank slate. You do keep any rewards you have purchased.
Yeah, so you're not going to lose anything that you bought in Mists of Pandaria. Sharpblades asks, can we solo queue for Mists of Pandaria scenarios in 6.0?
You can queue. You have to be above level 90. So I believe that the NPC is there, but he won't have the option for you to queue up because you are just going to be level 90. So the only one you can do right now is Dragon Soul because that requirement is above. You have to be above level 85. But for mob scenarios and LFR, you have to be above level 90 to have that option unlocked for you.
Exactly. And as far as heroic scenarios, to the best of my knowledge, there is nothing changing there. You still require a pre-made group, if that was what your question related to. To the best of my knowledge, there's no change that you will need a pre-made group for heroic scenarios. Right. Any more questions? I'm just looking now.
There's two ones at the end are good.
Yeah.
So Slowpoke, it's not really a question, but Slowpoke as a gamer was saying, I'm just sitting in Netherguard saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And I wanted to point out that you can actually access the old version of Netherguard Keep.
Yeah.
There is a Keepers of Time NPC, Zadormi, at the northern part of the zone where the road goes into Swamp of Sorrows, and you can speak to her, and it phases it into the old version, which is also good if you're doing low-level quests, because you can still do all the low-level quests in the Blasted Lands. The one thing that's changing is that the flight paths in that zone seem to be disabled, the old ones, even though the flight masters are still there.
Yeah.
But you can still see Netherguard Keep looking awesome, no evil orcs or bombs going up. It just looks as it was before. You can go to Hellfire and get your drinking hat. Quest from Netherguard, so
exactly.
You don't need to totally say goodbye.
No, it's not quite gone yet. Dr. MacTV asks, after guild levels are disappearing and every guild will be 25, will I be able to create a new level 25 guild and just buy remaining rewards like bank folds, etc., increasing bank outs?
So I believe that some rewards still require reputation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like some perks are sort of going away, they'll be rolled up into other different things. But if the bank fold requires you to have a guild achievement tied to it, your guild still needs to get that achievement done.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're after the critter or the pet or that kind of thing. Devias PvP asks, what level items will the Headless Horseman drop in 6.0? Perk, you mentioned earlier that they've been moving around a lot, but they settled on...
Yeah.
Where did they settle?
I think that they've been moving around because they want to scale them for different levels, but I think the 90 version is level 540, and because of the bizarre data things I was talking about, there's a version at 600, but I doubt that version.
I doubt it would be 600 gear. That would be very nice, but it seems pretty unlikely. And just to clarify, Sharp Blades in chat, Hallow's End is not staying level 90. It's doable at level 90, but the rewards are being updated. As we covered earlier in the show, you can watch it on YouTube. Last couple of questions from Twitter. Robin Siren asks, if we have Veloth points left over tonight, will they just disappear or will we be reimbursed somehow? Gold conversion, basically. Yep. So the usual gold conversion structure, Valor and Justice will be converted down, but then the conversion will keep going. So your Justice will go to gold. Sorry, your Valor will be added to your Justice. If that makes it exceed 4,000, that will go to gold. So it's just gonna enhance your wallet. Okay, so there we go. That is us. We only wanted to do an hour of this, and we're already over an hour. We've got an hour and 5 minutes. So one last question from Dirty Casual Cass, who asks, what is the one thing you want to do tonight before 6.0 drops tomorrow, Perk?
So I really wanted to get Green Fire done on my Warlock, and I know we've talked about this before on the show, but as soon as I wrote the guide to removed things coming in the pre-patch, I sort of got really busy with, like 6 beta builds a week and all sorts of other fun things. So I'd like to try to do it tonight, but I have class guides to format and
I know this pain.
So the database moves correctly from beta to live and all sorts of other
high pressure time. Yeah. Exactly that, yeah. For me, I am going to be going around all of my alts and double checking who has justice points. If any of them has justice points that I could use to buy an heirloom, then I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to maybe do some boring level 90 dungeons, the old Dungeons Mists of Pandaria stuff, just to pick up a few more justice points. If someone's got like 1,700 justice points and can really nearly buy an heirloom, I'm going to use my remaining justice points to stock up on heirlooms. So that's what I'll be up to this evening. It's going to be a fun night. So just before we go, we should plug some of our awesome guys. We've been talking about these a heck of a lot through the show, and it's because there are a ton of really good ones coming and already existing. So we have a guide to what is new in patch 6.0.2. We have a guide to gearing in patch 6.0.2. We have a guide to the event, by which we mean the quests and also the new Ubers. We have a guide to class changes. We have guides on playing your class.
We have 11 guides to class changes.
We have guides to class changes. Yeah, that's that's worth noting. There's a ton of class change guides coming, guides on playing your class, so the actual real how it impacts you, what people think you should do, the latest theory crafting, the latest information, all of that. And coming soon, Perk, we've got guides who are helping you in pre-patch through Wowhead specifically. What exactly is that going to cover?
So that's going to cover things like the item finder tool, which I mentioned before. You know, if you want to see how your gems changed, because like hidden expertise are going away, that can help you find like enchants for level 90 or like all the mythic gear, or, you know, helms that your Beast Mastery Hunter should wear. So it covers things like the item finder, it covers things like any zone changes, it covers things like, you know, transmog, a lot of tooltips got changed. It covers like how you can get Wowhead tooltips on this site. A really, really cool thing is the character models, because with our profiler tool, it shows you how you can preview what your character looks like with the old model, and then you can switch it to the new model. And, you know, in your armor, it's like all your character details from the armor, and you can switch between the two versions to see which one you like better. So we'll, you know, break that down for you, and lots of other small things that are coming when we flip the database over from beta to live.
Yeah, a ton of cool stuff coming there. All right, then, we are out of time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much to the people who showed up live for the Twitch chat. It's been really, really fun.
This was really awesome.
Yeah.
I love answering questions, so this was great.
Yeah, exactly, and it's lovely seeing all of the questions and all of the people being really excited and interested for the game. So you can follow me on Twitter on Olivia D. Grace. It's just there. You can follow Perk on Perculia. It's just above her screen on the right-hand side. You can follow Wowhead on Wowhead, and you can follow us on Twitch if you're watching right now by clicking the follow icon below the screen. That's going to be how you're notified about all of our upcoming Twitch goodness. Hopefully the show will be streamed live every week, and we may do more of these random Q&A sessions as well if we have a bit of spare time, which is rare.
And it was pretty spontaneous, and it went on.
Yeah, exactly. We decided to do this a couple of hours ago, so it was pretty fun. Thank you so much for hanging out. Do follow Wowhead on Twitter on @Wowhead, and as always, for all of this information, the YouTube version of this, which will be posted up tomorrow morning, and great guys like we've just talked about, and basically anything you need to know about World of Warcraft 6.0.2, Mists of Pandaria, Warlords of Draenor, and anything else, do check out wowhead.com. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out in the chat room, and we will see you very soon. Bye bye. And unlike the other day, I really am pulling the stream down now because we've got a lot to do today. Yes. So thank you so much for chilling out with us, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.